Hello Virgo friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, Virgo August 2020 Astrology Must-Knows. This month we are leaving the web of Venus and Mercury retrograde post-transit shadow periods for good, which means that all those things that were not green lights, like signing contracts, doing stuff Venus related like interior design, big love decisions, moving forward in love, money things, and anything that you have to do to or want to do to your physicality, you know, your big hair, different changes, your big wardrobe changes, all of these things have no more interference from Venus or Mercury. So that's the first thing we have to celebrate for August. The second thing we have to celebrate has to do with the phasing out of the most intense portion of the eclipse cycle. We have been, as of, June and July, really heavy into the ending of the Capricorn Cancer eclipse cycles that have brought many changes over the years of between the middle of 2018 to the middle of 2020. Changes in home and family, changes in work, changes in real estate, topics having to do with parents and parenting. And in the midst of the eclipse season, the emotions are very, very, very heavy. Exciting news can be coming in from new eclipse directions, and a lot of times there are things that we have to say goodbye to, and some of those things we're saying goodbye to we don't want to say goodbye to. So August brings us more in a time when the emotional shock part of whatever changes came are more settling into a new norm, and we're finding our footing with the new way. And this month very much carries the energy of like a baby giraffe, where you're or not your, but the baby, if you've ever seen a baby giraffe be born, they try to start walking very quickly, and it's pretty awkward looking, but they're finding their footing with their long, gangly legs, right? So that feeling of finding your footing after just being born with long, gangly legs is kind of a theme for this month. And part of that comes from the changes from the eclipse cycle, the post-eclipse energies. Some of that comes from an abundance of 150-degree angles. These angles are really awkward. They're just like what we described, like you're trying to do something. It's just, you're not in the stage where it's flowing yet. And so you might notice that theme is coming up this month. This month for Virgos, we have some of you having your birthdays, or if you're watching for your moon or rising, those of you in the early part of the sign will have the blessing of the sun crossing over your Virgo placement. And this is an exciting time of rebirth. Those of you who are September born Virgos, you're going to have this delayed a bit, but the theme is starting for our Virgo tribe. So we're going to talk about that as well. Actually, let's just talk about it right now. So I'm going to show you some visuals here. The sun takes the year to move around the running track through the sky. Okay, the orbit, of course the sun is not in an orbit per se, but from our perspective it looks like it's going around. So this is the running track through the sky, and all of these planets are running or walking through the track, and it takes them different amounts of time to get around the track, and it takes the sun the year. So when the sun gets back to the place that it was at when you were born, that is the solar return, or if for your moon or rising, that is your the connection that happens. The sun in the chart represents desires, and desires relate to wishes. So that's where birthday wishes come from. And so you get your birthday wishes. If you want to learn more about how you can maximize your birthday wishes, look for my video called Making Wishes Come True. So if you just search for Annie Botticelli Making Wishes Come True, you'll see more about how you can maximize those birthday wishes. But in any case, this is a time when the energy of desire comes in the sky, comes together with the energy of desire in your chart and creativity, and forms this portal that's open for your wishing. So that's happening, and that's very exciting. Now, in the time before that time, the sun moves through this 12th house, and the 12th house is the house of fear and worry and habits and things that are interfering with the things that you want. So you might notice in the weeks before your birthday, and again, this will be staggered. If you're a September born, you might not start feeling this until later in August. Like the middle of August for those of you at the beginning of September, the end of August for those of you who are at the end of the sign. But it will happen. And when the sun lights up this 12th house, it's like a spotlight on everything that's challenged. So a lot of fears come up. Some people will handle this. I remember back in the days when I used to drink, I would notice that in the month before, we would joke about, oh, we're starting birthday party early, and all of that, because the anxiety levels would get high. And we would think logically, like, okay, people are getting older and they're looking back at their lives and what they've done and what they haven't done, and, the stress of getting older and all that. And that's part of the stress that comes. But the more of it comes from the sun highlighting this 12th house. So you don't have to fear this time, and you can use it productively. Just see it as a way to have spirit revealed to you through your feelings, through your emotions, through the things that happen, the things that are interfering with you having your next level of experience. And then you can use your birthday wishes or you can make intentions with the sun moving over your moon or rising, to make differences, to make changes, to claim more of what you want in your life. So it's a very exciting time. Okay, so something else that's going on for Virgos is that, well, this is happening in the sky for everybody, but I'll show you where it's specifically happening for Virgos. So basically, Venus and the transiting North Node are going to make a conjunction. Conjunction is the most powerful aspect in all of astrology. It's when there's 0 degrees, meaning, well, there's a wider orb, but when they get right on top of each other, they're amplifying all the properties of the sign, of the planet, of the house that they're coming into, and everything is merging together and expanding the potentials that either of them had individually. So Venus, which rules love, beauty, and harmony, coming together with the North Node, which is your highest area, your highest expression in this lifetime, means that there may be more likely to have manifestations and harmonious, breakthroughs with what you're supposed to be doing. Everybody has a dharma. It doesn't matter what the extent to which that is. Someone's dharma may be their stay-at-home mom, and it's their path to focus on the kids. Some other people have other, we each have these things, and sometimes there's more than one thing that is our highest expression. And at this time, this is giving us cues and clues. So the natal North Node shows you your areas of highest expression this lifetime. The transiting North Node links into your natal in the way that it gives you clues for your personal North Node. So for Virgos right now, being out in the world, see the 10th house, and this is true for all early, middle, and late degree placements. This is the early chart, that's the middle chart, and that's the late chart. Okay, so you can see that no matter where you are on the spectrum, we're using the early chart here, but we're talking about everybody unless I differentiate out. But no matter where you are on the spectrum, this conjunction is occurring in the 10th house. That means that work and career pieces might be where you're going to find some of these pieces of destiny. For those of you who don't work or don't have a career or are retired, this is energetic of the place out in the world. So many people who don't have jobs or who don't need to work or don't have careers can have their place out away from, just their own company. It's the things that you're doing for the world. It's the things that you're doing in the world. So you stepping out into that place where you're more visible, where you're more seen, may be part of you claiming your personal destiny at this time. Okay. So something else that's notable this month is that the planets are going to start moving into Virgo. Okay, so at the end of the month, the sun gets there, Mercury is going to get there, Venus is eventually going to get there. That's going to take more time. But in any case, Venus it's going to be a while. Let's just ignore Venus for now. But the Mercury and the sun are going to get into Virgo. And when that happens, over this time, they combine with your placement, basically, like we talked about before. So Mercury is likely to bring notable news, information, things about your expression, projects, contracts, pieces of information that are notable coming from other people or you sharing, important conversations, important contacts, things like that. So just kind of look out for that, because as these things bump along and connect, something could be noteworthy, and if you know that it's coming, you'll get your big, I call them synchronicity ears. All right, so this is you. These are your big synchronicity ears. So when you have your big synchronicity ears on, that means you're listening big, and your big synchronicity eyes, we could even say, right? So you're looking out for the synchronicities. And synchronicities is their spirit talking to us, basically. So just pay more attention at this time, because as those planets connect, it's more likely that something that could be useful for you is going to come in. And if you're looking for it, you're more likely to see it and use it. Okay, so we're going to talk about Mars retrograde, not quite yet. But we are going to talk about some aspects that are noteworthy, okay? So again, I'm working on this early chart here, but everything I'm talking about is true for all Virgos unless I differentiate out through additional information. We've got more than twice as many challenging aspects as sweet ones this month. And when that happens, you don't have to fear it. It just means that there's going to be, discomfort. There's going to be awkwardness, as we talked about. There's going to be some clashes. And it means you have to work a little harder to get the gold. But people who are spiritually seeking, we're using that. And if you're not doing this, I'm inviting you, Spirit is inviting you to do this. All of the challenges that come to you can be alchemical fuel that you can convert into forward, inner, and outer motion for yourself and movement, progression. So Mars is going to clash with Pluto and Saturn. Now, I will tell you, can actually be downright dangerous. I'm an optimist, and I always try to see the good and the positivity, and I like to reframe anything that could be a bummer into something that's usable, because that's how I live my life. At the same time, if there's something nasty and dangerous, I will let you know, and in this case, that is happening. So in the days around the 13th and the days around the 24th of August, if you can hide under a rock, you may want to. If you can't hide under a rock, then you'll want to have your big ears out this time, not just for synchronicity, but for being aware and careful. Have your eyes be really big and your ears, your senses be supercharged for ways to protect yourself from any possible mischief. People are going to be angry, they're going to be stressed out, and people are going to snap. There's going to be a lot of snapping, and there's going to be a lot of colliding of energies in ways like through accidents and other acts of aggression. So use your intuition to guide yourself around not being around those situations. If you're paying attention, you can see someone who looks weird, like they might be about to do something. If you're driving and you're only driving instead of texting or doing other stuff, you might be able to notice when someone's driving aggressively and get out of their way. This is not the time to annoy someone who's tailgating you by going slower or stepping on the brakes, because it just isn't. So you just want to not antagonize people who are obviously on the edge right now. And you may be on the edge right now. So proactive anger management, rest, things that release stress, exercise, anything that can help to take the pressures off these dates beforehand may help you to not blow up. And if you have to have a bone to pick with somebody, you have a conversation you have to have, I would not necessarily plan it on these days if you can help it. If you can't help it, you've got to let it flow. But if you can help it, working on your own to see your charge around a situation, clearing up your negativity around something before you go in. If you can get into a conversation that could be charged without your end of the charge on it, you'll be able to better use wording that could make it softer and not incense somebody else, and could be more compassionate to the other person's side if you're not lost in your own charge. So this is going to come up a lot, and this is going to be a theme for the rest of the year because Mars retrograde is coming. So we've been dealing with the Venus and Mercury retrogrades. I told you last year, if you've been watching my videos for a while, I prep you about this stuff a long time beforehand so that you can understand the natures of the dynamics and do things that are better to not do during these times in better times, and then focus on what's good for these times. So what's good for these times is being present and allowing things to come up in a way where you're not forcing anything. Mars rules, okay, so what I was going to say about Venus and Mercury, you notice if you pay attention every year, you notice, well, it's every other year that we have a super retrograde year pretty much. And Venus and Mercury will have at least 3, as it usually does. Sometimes it has 4 retrogrades. Venus will have the 1, and then right following, when Venus and Mercury get direct, Mars will start. And you'll see a nice visual of this in my book, Planetology, which you can pre-order now. But the rhythms of the stars, or the orbits of the planets, actually connect in with each other in a way that exactly equals phi, the golden ratio, the Fibonacci code. It's actually all encoded in the orbits of the planets. And so there is this natural predictable rhythm. So once Venus and Mercury are done, now Mars comes. And every day we get into August, it's deepening, okay? And as of September 9th through November 14th is when Mars will be in its actual retrograde. And then it will take a while to, get adjusted afterwards. Not till the beginning of 2021 is that completely clear. So Mars rules aggression, frustration, anger, oomph, your get up and go, your ambition, your inspiration. It rules sexual forces. It rules how you use your energy, how you get things done. And when Mars goes into retrograde, if you're trying to push, one of the main themes of Mars retrograde is to not push and to be super aware of aggression. There is so much aggression woven into the speech patterns of humans that it's almost unbelievable. There's something called semantics. There's a study of the effect of words, of language on the nervous system. And we have passive aggressiveness and aggressiveness woven into our speech in ways that were imprinted from our childhood, from when we hear our parents talking, when we feel our parents talking while we're in the womb. Aggression actually gets woven into the speech patterns and is part of the way that we treat each other, which is a huge problem. And whether it's more overt or whether it's more covert, it doesn't matter. Mars retrograde is going to bring it up. And you can see that the eclipses and the combinations, you see all this Capricorn energy and these outer planets colliding here has brought a massive amount of things that were repressed or under the surface into the general scene. So for us to work with consciously. So the coronavirus, the markets breaking down, things going on with, acts of aggression towards people, in the ways that this has been coming up. This is astrology is coming into form here. So a lot of people are going to be aggravated. They're going to be angry, and they're not going to want to put up with things that they have put up with before, and you might be one of them. So from the individual to the community to the global levels, resentments are going to be coming up. This is the story of Mars retrograde being continued and all of this energy here. So the best thing that we can do, in my mind, everyone has their own way that they're going to deal with this, but the more we can actually heal the poison without spreading the poison. People have made a mistake in the way of having things be repressed and having them be taboo to discuss, and that's caused this repression, but the violence is still occurring regardless. So now it's bubbling out, and when it bubbles out, we want to make sure that the way that it bubbles out doesn't cause more problems, because Mars retrograde, any aggression that gets put out in Mars retrograde has a tendency to boomerang on the person who did this. And that's even true. Let's say someone did something to you and you are filing a suit against them. Filing a suit is an act of aggression. It's saying, hey, I'm not going to take this anymore. You did this and I'm going to reclaim or whatever. A lot of times, suits that are filed in Mars retrograde come back on the filer. So, it's not true 100% of the time, but we do see this energy, and any act of aggression you put out is likely to come back to you. So if you can use spiritual practices, meditation, EFT tapping, you can look up EFT tapping. There's a ton. The world needs EFT tapping. Oh my gosh. And there's tons of free resources. But this is important for you to know, not only for your own process, also to understand what's going on in the world, also to understand what you see going on in your relationships, but also to keep yourself safe. This is a pretty sketchy situation. So it's not just the 13th and the 24th, it's the days around those days, right? And specifically, this can show up in any area of life, but Virgos are specifically having a lot of this come up in their 8th house, which is their intimate relationships, their family relationships and patterns, their family relationships with money, their spousal relationships with money, banks or other places where you loan money or borrow money. And this is also the sex, there's the sex and intimacy. So a lot of repressed issues having to do with sexuality are also part of this. And specifically for Virgo, this is true for all early, middle, and late degree placements, this 8th house is going to be part of this clash. Now for the early and middle degree placements, it's also going to be, okay, so maybe you don't know where early and middle is. I'll give you a little tutorial here. Early people are basically the August born, or 0 to 9 degrees if you're watching for your moon or rising. Middle is basically the September 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late is around September 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. Okay, so those of you who are in this bucket here, like August born and through September 10th, you all are going to have this additional clash energy in the 5th house, which has to do with children, has to do with, so, you know, be extra careful with your kids. If you have an intuition about your kid going to do something, you know, consider not letting them do it. If your child is in a situation that is not safe and it's been kind of building, try to do something beforehand. That's why I give you this information so far beforehand, so you can know that this is coming. Also, if your child is having anger issues or aggression towards themselves or others, be really careful around these times, you know, especially just be extra protective, extra aware, and, you know, give extra safeguards. This also can have to do with romance. So if you have a romantic situation that gets dangerous, a person, an ex you're afraid of, somebody that you're reconnecting with who had some aggression in the past, be super careful, especially in those dates around the 13th and 24th. But, you know, all of Mars retrograde is going to bring up these unresolved things involving the use of power and the improper use of power. But we do have opportunities to rectify the patterns that we have. If you have an imprint where you draw to you, you're magnetic to abuse, Mars retrograde can help you to heal the things, to change your magnetism, to make you vibrate to a different level where you're not drawing that in as your constant. So that's one of the beautiful benefits. Now, those of you later in the sign, the chart shifts a little bit here. When we look at the late degree placements, this same boom, this is the same for the middle, okay, but see this boom, it's close enough to the 5th where these things that we've been talking about, you may see that. But it's also energetically in the 4th house. The 4th house is home and family and real estate. Okay, so the 5th house is more like kids and your romantic relations, but the 4th house can encompass all of your relationships, anyone who's in your home, anyone who's in your family. So just kind of look out extra for that. Again, like if you're in an unsafe home situation, you want to try to rectify that before these times. Okay, so now let's talk about some fun dates. Like I said, there aren't as many nice aspects this month as there are kind of annoying ones. But the 27th and the 29th, we've got this fun time when Venus is going to move into Cancer, and then it's going to make a nice trine. So right now I'm using the late degree chart, but what I'm saying is true for everyone, and we'll drill down more. So Venus and Neptune are going to get together. Really, Venus is going to be here because it's going to be in the water sign by the time it gets there. So that's going to bring opportunities for idealism to be realized. And what I really like is that these dates of the 27th through the 29th, you notice those are towards the end of the month. You notice that's also when the planets start moving into Virgo, which is, you know, a better match for Virgo placements. And it's after a lot of the main ruckuses of the month. So that tells us this potential story of there being a rainbow after the storm, and there being gold even at the end of the rainbow that came after the storm. So the month representing the storm and doing the work to get through it, and then these beautiful aspects come, and Venus and Neptune getting together means like idealism realized in love and money. Things that you hoped for, things that you dreamed of could manifest in a wonderful way for you. So definitely be out for that. And it could have to do with money, you know, for the late degree placements. But let's look at the houses that it will be in, because it will be on this cusp for late degree placements. And this cusp has to do with your relationships. This is the 7th house. This is the cusp between, it's basically the cusp between the 6th and the 7th house, but we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so about 17 degrees. So this is going to be in the 10th house. Okay, so work and career and relationship. So what that could mean is someone you're in relationship with can help you out in your work. Okay, so that's just like a very common, easy manifestation. So if you know somebody, like I remember, this reminds me of when, before I got my job, many moons ago, I worked for a pharmaceutical company. And at that time, I was very excited about that because I didn't know about any of the other alternative things that I'm into. And that was like a job of a lifetime for a young person, and I wanted to do that. So I wanted to work for a certain pharmaceutical company. And I told everybody, I said, if I can get in front of the people that hire for this pharmaceutical company, they will hire me. I will explain to them that they have to hire me. And so I just kept telling everybody that. And then one day, it was actually my boyfriend's mom. She said, our friend of the close friend of the family works for that company. Why don't you tell her? So I told her, and I said, listen, if you ever have a situation where they're wanting to hire somebody, like, even if you're not doing the hiring. And then one day, out of the blue, she called me and said, I'm friends with one of the managers. He is hiring. I called and they're slipping you in. And they hired me, and whatever, the rest is history. But this is that type of thing where, like, a close relationship. And this is on the line there for the late degree placements, but let's see here for the middle, and yeah, this is true for middle and early. So really early, middle, and late, because this is falling into the 7th house. So just pay extra attention to the people that you know, because they can help you with money and even romance, because we're talking about Venus here. So if somebody that you already know is like, I want to set you up with somebody, maybe that could work. So the last thing I want to talk about has to do with another very positive aspect. Since we do have a lot of challenges this month, I really want to make sure to bring out the sweet things. We have a trine with Mercury and Jupiter at the end of the month. You'll be feeling that like the days, the 27th through the 29th, and after, maybe even till the very end of the month. So the same areas of life that were negatively affected by the boom with Mars on the 13th and the 24th are the same areas of life that get this blessing from the kiss that Mercury brings. Mercury is news, it's expression, and this trine is in an earth trine. A trine is the most favorable aspect in all of astrology. And so when we have a trine in an earth sign, it can manifest something very tangible. And so, like, very visible, very notable, not just like an ethereal or emotional occurrence. So that again ties into this possible storyline that I see here of these issues coming up, you working through them, and then something very positive and tangible can come out of what it is that was specifically bumped. Okay, so the bump relates to, okay, this is the problem. Then you work on the solution. Then some good outcome comes from that. So if you would like to have more information about this month, you definitely want to check out my Mars retrograde resources, because once Mars goes retrograde, like I said, really every day we move into August, you're getting more of the Mars retrograde, and there are certain things that aren't great to do during Mars retrograde, and there are certain things better to do when you have the momentum, because the ambitions are going to be waning, and laziness might start taking over as you get into the retrograde. So you want to understand the types of things to do beforehand, before you get too lazy and things start working against you trying to get them done. So if you look in the notes underneath this video, click on more, I have my Mars retrograde video and my Mars retrograde blog link. You can also search for Annie Botticelli Mars retrograde. If you like written horoscopes by me that are much easier to follow than the technical focus that I have in the videos, then you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. Again, that link is underneath the videos as well. And you can see written horoscopes 1 month early from me that just summarize the month and help you to just have a good picture of some area that are highlighted for you. If you'd like to go into more depth with more blogs, you can go to anniehelpsyou.com. I have a very extensive astrology blog and some other ones. While you're at anniehelpsyou.com, you can also sign up for my free email newsletter. And when you get my newsletter, you get a written version of all of the challenging aspects, what you can expect from them, delivered into your inbox 1 month early. So you know the dates of all the aspects. I pick a few and talk about them in the videos, but I list all of them, and so you get that right up into your inbox. Plus you get my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine for free when you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. If you'd like to take some courses, I've got some free courses at my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. I call it Living the Loom Life, right? We're bringing the light, the loom, into our being and taking that forward. You also can see my paid courses there, including my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. So if you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn, then you can see the very comprehensive program that I have at lumelife.com. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month.